Have you ever wondered if this life, this version of reality you're living, is only a fraction of what truly exists? What if everything you thought was solid, final, or unchangeable was simply a layer, a veil, one of many? You weren't meant to stay asleep beneath it. Somewhere, buried under years of noise and conditioning, lies a sacred truth you've always known, not with your mind but with your essence. There was a time when you remembered. But then, like all of us, you were led away, distracted, fragmented, drawn into stories that pulled you farther from the center of who you are. Yet something within you never fully forgot. And it's that quiet part, the one beyond logic, beyond survival, that brought you here. Not by accident, but by design. This video is not content, it's a threshold. What you're about to hear isn't just information, it's remembrance. A stirring of what your soul has always known but never had the language to speak. As you listen, you may feel echoes, subtle, ancient, intimate, rising from the depths of your being. So before we begin, take a deep breath. Let go of what you think you know. Release the weight of needing to understand. And open, because what follows is not a lesson, it is a return. There's a reason your desires feel strangely familiar, as if you're not reaching for something new, but recalling something lost. That's because manifestation is not creation, it's remembering. According to quantum physics, all versions of your life already exist within the quantum field. It's a dimension of energy where time folds in on itself, and possibility is infinite. Each version of you, confident, free, abundant, already has a space carved out in that invisible terrain. You don't have to build the life you want from scratch. You just have to tune in. Imagine the field as a sky full of radio stations, all playing at once. Each station holds a different reality. The version where you're thriving is broadcasting, loudly. But if you're tuned to self-doubt, to fear, to lack, all you'll hear is static. That's not because your dream isn't available. It's because you're on the wrong channel. Manifestation is less about asking and more about compatibility. The question is never, can I have this? But rather, am I a match for it? This changes everything. No longer do you need to push, to strive, to beg the universe to deliver. The field doesn't respond to effort. It responds to energy. And more specifically, to resonance. The vibrational signature you carry through your thoughts, emotions, and embodied state. You don't need to convince the universe of your worth. You need to become the kind of person for whom this dream is inevitable. So how do you do that? You shift the internal frequency. You begin with subtle alignments, adjusting your self-talk, your posture, the emotional tone you carry into your day. You make decisions from the identity of someone who already lives the outcome, not someone who's still hoping. Feel abundance before money arrives. Feel certainty before the path appears. Feel wholeness before anything changes. The moment you generate the emotion, you create coherence. You become a clear signal, and the field, which mirrors back whatever is most stable, begins collapsing realities to match you. This is the difference between those who endlessly seek and those who quietly arrive. Your dream life isn't something you'll stumble upon. It's something you'll stabilize into, which means the most important work is invisible. Emotional alignment, energetic clarity, inner congruence. So the next time you visualize your dream, don't just see it, feel it. Live it internally until it becomes the only frequency you know. Because in the quantum realm, the outside doesn't lead the inside. It's the other way around. Reality, quite literally, tunes itself to you. Most people try to fix their lives by rearranging the outside. They move cities, change jobs, end relationships, start new routines, chasing change like it's hiding in the next decision. But what if the root of your reality has nothing to do with your surroundings? In the quantum field, reality doesn't form based on your plans. It responds to your signal. You are a broadcaster. Every thought you think, every feeling you sustain, every belief you carry acts like an ongoing transmission into the field. And the field doesn't discriminate. It simply mirrors back the frequency you send. That's why external change without internal shift rarely lasts. You can upgrade your lifestyle, but if your dominant frequency is fear, not enoughness, or doubt, your new life will eventually reflect those same patterns in a different disguise. Negative emotions aren't wrong, but they are data. They tell you what station you're currently tuned to. If guilt, resentment, or anxiety is your background music, you can't manifest from that place. Not because it's morally wrong, but because it's energetically incoherent. You can't manifest peace while embodying conflict. You can't attract clarity while vibrating confusion. The key isn't to suppress those emotions, but to recognize them as indicators. They're not meant to be judged, they're meant to be realigned. This is where frequency becomes a practice. Each morning before the world floods your senses with urgency and distraction, pause, ask yourself, what do I want to radiate today? Choose a core frequency, peace, trust, gratitude, joy, and anchor into it. Let that become your emotional home base. Throughout your day, you'll drift. That's natural. You'll get triggered. You'll feel thrown off. But the work isn't to be perfect. It's to come back, again and again, like tuning an instrument, like remembering a rhythm you were born to play. Because here's the truth. Your outer life is a lagging echo of your inner state. It's always a few steps behind the vibration you most consistently hold. Shift the frequency and the future follows. This isn't about positive thinking or forced optimism. It's about energetic authority, reclaiming the power you've always had, the ability to choose your internal weather, regardless of what's happening around you. And when you do, when your inner signal becomes more stable than your environment, something magical happens. The world begins to bend, not to your demands, but to your alignment. Not because you fought harder, but because you finally tuned in. Here's the truth most people miss. You don't get the life you want. You get the life that matches who you are. And not who you are in moments of inspiration, but who you are consistently, in your thoughts, in your choices, in the subtle ways you speak to yourself when no one's watching. This is the core of alignment, not a goal you aim for, but a frequency you become. Most people try to manifest from a distance. They visualize the outcome while maintaining the identity of someone who hasn't yet arrived. But you can't broadcast lack and expect to receive abundance. You can't identify as unworthy and expect to magnetize love. You can't live as your old self and expect the new life to begin. There is no real transformation without identity shift. Your reality doesn't bend to your words, it bends to your embodiment. So, if your desired life is already broadcasting from the quantum field, the only real task is to become its match. And that begins with a question far more powerful than affirmations or vision boards. How would I act if I already had it? How would I move through the world if the money, the love, the clarity were already mine? Would I still hesitate? Would I still shrink? Would I still wait for permission? This is not about pretending or faking confidence. This is about collapsing the gap between someday and now. Your nervous system needs to feel the new reality as safe, familiar, embodied. Otherwise, it will resist, sabotage, and retreat to the comfort of the known, even if the known is painful. To align with your future, you must stop waiting for it to arrive. You must show up as if it's already here. This means walking into the room as if you belong there, speaking the truth as if it won't cost you your worth, saying no as if your boundaries matter, making decisions not from fear of what you'll lose, but from trust in what you're becoming. The field doesn't respond to hope, it responds to coherence. And coherence is when thought, feeling, and action all move in the same direction, when your inner identity becomes undeniable. So the next time you find yourself stuck between who you've been and who you want to become, don't ask, "What should I do?" Ask, "What would the version of me who's already there choose right now?" Then do it, not perfectly, not theatrically, but honestly, repeatedly, until the outer world can no longer deny what you've already become. Because alignment isn't something you find, it's something you live. Most people wait to feel good until something good happens. They treat emotion as a reaction, something earned after results show up. But in the quantum field, emotions aren't the outcome. They are the blueprint. Emotion is not feedback. It's instruction. Whatever you feel most consistently becomes the command you send to the fabric of reality. You may speak your desires, visualize your goals, recite affirmations. But if your emotional tone is misaligned, your signal is scrambled. The universe doesn't hear what you say. It reflects what you embody. This is where coherence becomes everything. Coherence is when your thoughts, your feelings, and your nervous system all speak the same language. It's when there's no internal static, no contradiction, just clarity. But here's the trap. Most people try to think their way into a new life while emotionally anchored in the past. They dream of abundance but carry the vibration of scarcity. They visualize love while steeped in loneliness. That split between intention and emotion creates interference, and interference delays manifestation. The field doesn't respond to what you hope for. It responds to the frequency you stabilize. So what does that mean practically? It means emotions are not fleeting states to be tolerated or fixed. They are energetic muscles to be trained. You don't wait for peace, you practice it. You don't wait for gratitude, you generate it. Not because it's fake, but because it's formative. Every time you feel the emotion of your future, you're rehearsing reality at the quantum level. Start small. In the quiet of the morning, before the noise of the world drowns you out, choose one emotion to cultivate. Let it rise. Let it pulse through your body. Sit with it. Speak from it. Move through your day as if it's your baseline. Over time, this practice becomes your new frequency. and your new frequency becomes your magnet. Because the field doesn't reward effort, it responds to resonance. So when you find yourself misaligned, don't ask, "What am I doing wrong?" Ask, "What am I emotionally practicing?" Because your emotional state is not a side effect, it's the signal. And once you learn to sync that signal with your vision, the line between desire and destiny begins to blur. Not because you forced it, but because you finally became a match. You've done the visualizations, you've said the affirmations, you've consumed hours of wisdom telling you to think positive, trust the process, and align with your higher self. But still, life doesn't shift. Why? Because transformation doesn't begin at the level of thought. It begins at the level of pattern. And patterns live deeper than your intentions. They live in your nervous system. The truth is, your body is addicted to who you've been. Every emotion you've rehearsed, anxiety, scarcity, guilt, has built neural pathways and chemical imprints. Over time, they become your baseline. So even when you consciously desire something new, your system resists it, not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. Change feels unsafe not because it is unsafe, but because your subconscious can't find proof that it will survive what's unknown. This is the transformation trap, wanting to shift while being wired to stay the same. And unless you interrupt that wiring, unless you create new emotional experiences to replace the old, your frequency will remain trapped in yesterday's echoes. But here's the liberating part. You don't need to rewire everything at once. You just need to notice the loop, pause the autopilot, and choose a different emotional response in real time. When fear rises, pause. When self-doubt speaks, breathe. When you feel pulled back into lack, ask, "What would the version of me who's already free do right now?" Then act from that place. Not to fake it, but to retrain your nervous system, to show your body that new is safe. That peace is familiar. That joy is sustainable. Because the subconscious doesn't learn from theory. It learns from repetition, from experience. And each time you choose to respond from the future instead of react from the past, you collapse the pattern. You weaken the groove. You become less addicted to the version of you that created the problem, and more available to the version of you who's already living the solution. Transformation isn't a leap. It's a series of emotional micro-choices made consistently, especially when the old self screams loudest. So next time you feel yourself slipping into the frequency of before, don't judge it. Witness it. Then gently, steadily shift. Not with force, with presence. We often believe transformation arrives like lightning, sudden, dramatic, unmistakable. We wait for the breakthrough moment, the epiphany, the before and after that finally proves we've changed. But in the quantum world, real change rarely looks like revolution. It looks like repetition. It looks like quiet choices made when no one's watching. Choices so small, they barely feel like change at all. Because frequency isn't shaped by declarations, it's sculpted by consistency. Every moment you're broadcasting, not just through your goals or big decisions, but through the micro-rituals of your day. How you wake up, what you say to yourself in the mirror, how you respond to silence, what you choose when no one needs anything from you. These aren't just habits. They're energetic declarations. Each one says, "This is who I am." And the field, impartial and exact, listens closely. So when you brush your teeth while rehearsing anxiety, that becomes part of your frequency. When you check your phone before checking in with yourself, that becomes a vote for distraction. When you rush your morning instead of anchoring in peace, that momentum becomes your soundtrack. But the inverse is also true. When you light a candle while setting intention, that becomes alignment. When you slow down to breathe before answering, that becomes coherence. When you make your bed with presence, that becomes a broadcast of order, respect, and readiness. You don't need to overhaul your life. You need to infuse it. Micro-alignments are how you collapse timelines. They're how you train your nervous system to believe. This is who we are now. The mistake most people make is waiting for clarity before committing. But alignment doesn't come after certainty. It creates it. So here's the invitation. Design 3 rituals that match your future self. Maybe it's a gratitude walk each morning. Maybe it's 5 minutes of stillness before bed. Maybe it's speaking only truth for one day. Whatever you choose, do it not as a task, but as a transmission. Because the field doesn't need volume, it needs precision. And precision lives in the small, repeated acts that say, I'm no longer becoming this. I already am. True quantum change doesn't need a loud arrival. It just needs enough quiet decisions to become irreversible. We live in a world obsessed with motion, where doing is currency and stillness is mistaken for idleness. But in the quantum field, it's not noise that shapes reality. It's vibration. And the purest vibration emerges from stillness. Stillness is not absence, it's presence. It's not emptiness, it's unfiltered signal. When you stop trying to force, fix, or figure it out, something profound begins to happen. Your inner static quiets. The mind softens its grip. The nervous system exhales. And in that still space, the field can finally reflect something new, something unedited by your fear or effort. Because here's the paradox: becoming doesn't happen through striving. It happens through allowing. You don't summon the future by chasing it. You magnetize it by resting in the frequency where it already exists. This doesn't mean giving up. It means surrendering the illusion of control. It means stepping out of mental manipulation and into vibrational purity. When you enter this state, not of sleep, but of deep wakefulness, the field responds immediately. Stillness becomes the portal through which coherence enters. And it is in this quiet, often uncomfortable space that realities collapse. You begin to sense possibilities you didn't see before. Synchronicities accelerate. Insights arrive not as thoughts, but as knowings. The outer world adjusts, not because you pushed it, but because you finally matched it. Stillness is the signal that says, I trust the timing. It says, I am no longer a seeker. I am a station. So give yourself space to stop. Not with your body alone, but with your mind, your striving, your search. Sit, stand, walk, but do so in the energy of full arrival. Each day, take 5 minutes to do nothing. Not meditation with a goal. Not silence with a checklist. Just pure presence. Be the one who has already received. Feel the state as if it's already yours. Let your cells memorize that signal, and let the universe calibrate accordingly. Because the field doesn't need effort, it needs resonance. And the deepest resonance is born in stillness. You were never meant to chase your dream life, because it's not running from you. It's waiting patiently, precisely, on a frequency you have yet to fully claim. This is the quiet secret of the quantum field. It doesn't respond to wishing. It doesn't respond to hustle. It responds to coherence, to the inner broadcast of a self who no longer doubts, delays, or negotiates her worth. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And the dream you keep envisioning, whether it's freedom, love, abundance, peace, it already exists in a layer of time that's just one vibrational degree away. The more you try to grasp it, the more it slips into someday. But the moment you stop chasing and start tuning, reality begins to bend. So let this be the invitation. Stop broadcasting lack. Stop rehearsing stories that tether you to the version of you that never arrives. Begin instead to stabilize the signal. Live as if, breathe as if, walk as if the dream already landed, and now it's simply unfolding one coherent moment at a time. This isn't delusion, it's declaration. It's the difference between hoping and becoming, between waiting and remembering. So now, with everything you've heard, with everything you've felt, pause, drop into stillness, tune in, and ask yourself the only question that truly matters. Are you ready to become the signal you've been waiting for?